Hello everyone, this side Dr. Sanjay Kumar. I am the assistant professor at WBNS Kolkata. Today I will be talking about the tax evasion. Let's talk about learning objective to understand the meaning and concept of tax evasion. Next one is to know the reason and modes for tax evasion. Next is to know and understand the impact of tax evasion. Next is to know the institutions dealing with the tax evasion. To find out the measures to contain the tax introduction. Why taxes? Over the course of human history, there are quite few things which would have divided human opinions. Taxes have. On one side, we have luminaries like Adam Smith, the father of modern economics, saying it is not very unreasonable that the rich should contribute to the public expense not only in the proportion to their revenue, but something more than in that proportion. And in the other corner, we see titans like Mark Twain keep the only differences between a taxman and the taxi is that the tax demist leaves the skin, meaning that the taxpayer leaves nothing and takes everything. As a citizen of a developing country like ours, we are always at the dilemma of whether to pay or not to pay tax. As a citizen of a welfare state, we expect the government to provide us with all the facilities. We expect good roads, subsidized fuels, health care at affordable rates, state of the art of universities, and above all, it's the dream of every common Indians to land a government job. Now the government cannot keep printing currency notes to discharge all the above functions. This is where the relevance of the taxes comes in, as the great American jurist Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, who pointed out, I hate paying taxes, but I love the civilization they give me. Taxes are the necessary evil by which we gift ourselves health care through government hospitals. Usually they offer services without any cost. Education in municipal and government schools, the fees is negligible. Cooking gas at concessional rate. Employ locks up employees in various departments and secure our borders with sufficient arms and ammunition so that we can live a happy and peaceful life. Compliance with taxation measures, planning versus avoidance versus evasion. Most of the civilized nations, if not all, levy taxes on their citizens to meet their running expenses. What the government does through legislation is imposition of taxes. Adapting the popular idiom government proposes and citizen disposes is the present tax scenario in the nation. 5.6 crore peoples, which is just 4.1% of the over 125 crores populations, pays taxes in India. In contrast, in the USA, about 45% of the population pays taxes, showing the decimal rate of tax collection and the absence of tax culture in our country. In an ideal scenario, all the individuals will be taxed according to their capacity and pay will what is levied on them. However, the law is never a rigid system which has a one size fits all formulas. Tax planning, let's admit that the government is no Count Dracula who is satisfied only by sucking the poor citizens dry of all earnings. The legislations allow deductions and exemptions from payment of taxes to incentivize certain priority measures of governments, eking out maximum benefits out of such benevolent provisions is tax planning. Subject to certain limits, the government allows exemption from payment of taxes by non-levy of taxes on pension plans, the life insurance policy, medical insurance, home loans, education loans, long-term capital gains, etc. If one is able to claim full deductions under all the heads of income tax act, the total non-taxable income is pegged at 10.75 lakh, and intelligent tax planning lets one off the hook of the taxman, at the same time complying with the letter and spirit of the law. If the SSE goes for the tax planning, it is win-win situations for everyone, including the states. Planning is both compliance and savings. Tax avoidance and tax evasion. The difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion is the thickness of a prison wall, said Dennis Haley, the former UK Chancellor of the Exchequer. What the ex-tax man meant was that evader goes behind bars whilst avoider manages to stay outside. Tax avoidance through seems closer to tax evasion is rather related to the planning than the former. The avoidance, as the term suggests, is brazen non-payment of taxes by exploiting loopholes in the taxation machinery, though there is no violation of the letter of the law, but the spirit of law is given a go by. In the short, an assessee essentially exploits the loopholes that enable them to pay tax on lesser amount than what they would have paid. Since this act merely involves finding and exploiting a gap in the physical provision, it is not usually construed to be strictly illegal because it is usually enable the assessees to be illegally exempted from the payment of taxes. The Black's Law Dictionary defines tax evasion as illegality paying less in taxes than the law permits, committing fraud in filing or paying taxes. The deliberate fraud committed by a person who is liable to pay taxes by non-payment is a tax evasion, and the evader runs the risk of prosecution and penalty. In simple terms, tax evasion means suppressing or minimizing the tax liability by using unlawful means. Unlike tax avoidance, which is a legal act, tax evasion is illegal and involves exploiting a tax advantage that Parliament never intended. In the judgment of CIT versus Raman and Company, the Supreme Court held avoidance of tax liability by so arranging commercial affairs that charge of tax is distributed is not prohibited. A taxpayer may resort to a device to divert the income before it accrues or arises to him. Effectiveness of the device does not depend not upon considerations of morality, but on the operation of the Income Tax Act. Legislative injunction in taxing statutes may not, except on peril of penalty, be violated, but it may lawfully be circumvented. In the judgment of Union of India versus Azadi Bachao Andolan, the Apex Court has reaffirmed the right of the assessee to mitigate the payment of tax as long as it is done by legitimate and legal means and measures. Similarly, in the case of Vodafone International Holdings versus Union of India and others, the court agreed with the Westminster principle evolved in England, stating that every taxpayer has the right to manage their tax liability, and consequently efficient tax management cannot be penalized. In Vodafone International Holding case, the court held that whether a transaction is used principally as a culpable device for the distribution of earnings, profits and gains is determined by a review of all the facts and circumstances surrounding the transaction. It is in the above cases that the principle of lifting the corporate will or doctrine of substance over the form or the concept of beneficial ownership or the concept of alter ego arises. Thus, it is the facts and circumstances which decides on whether or not one is found guilty of tax evasion or saves himself due to gaps in the tax net. Tax evasion and the tax evil of black money. Common saying is the country which goes like evil breeds evil, one which is the true about the evil of tax evasion also. The evil of tax evasion breeds greater evil in the form of black money, economic destabilization. Measures like this is capable of bringing down entire nation's down. In fact, the entire economy of the Delhi Sultanate faced severe crisis due to counterfeit currency that flooded the market. Black money has been defined as assets or resources that have neither been reported to the public authorities at the time of their generation nor disclosed at the point of time during their possession. In its 1985 report on the aspects of black economy, the National Institute of Public Finance and Policy defined black income as aggregate of income which are taxable but not reported to the tax authorities. Black money and white black money. Black money can actually be classified as black money begotten by legitimate ways and black money amassed by legitimate means. The first type of black money is that the money may have been generated through illegitimate activities not permissible under the law, like crimes, drug trade, terrorism and corruption, all of which are punishable under the legal framework of the state. The white black money on the other hand is begotten by through perfectly legitimate and otherwise permissible activities under the law of the land, but she has failed to self-report the income so generated, comply with the tax requirements or pay the dues to the public exchequer, leading to the generation of this wealth. The first type of illegal income gained by illegal means, while the second type converts legal income that is concealed from the public authorities. The effect of the former is direct and is quite detrimental to the economy, as the promotion of illegal activities funds terrorism, drugs trafficking and the dubious underworld ecosystem. The latter is an indirect threat as effort is felt due to adverse effects on the economy, leading to a dysfunction in the whole system of cash flow. Aam Aadmi and the tax evasion. Of the 125 crores people in India, only 4.5% pays taxes. The question that the 95.5% of the common man raises their hands here about tax evasion and black money is the article "Chhod do hame kya." As the tax laws are of no concern for them, kids are being taught tale of the frog who enjoyed the rising wrath of the slowly heated vessel. The wrath will feel bit later felt like a strength draining in energy and deepening the frog's relaxation while the water is getting hotter and the hotter. By the time the frog realizes its danger, it is too late to take action and dumb frog perished in the boiling water. The Aam Aadmi is like the frog and the shadow economy created by tax evasion, and the infested with the black money is the slowly boiling water. The common man, though, might not feel the pinch of the arcane national support of India, but the stands of the loose all only is a matter of time before the field gets too hot to take medical actions. Impact of tax evasion. Impact of evasion of tax revenue and welfare measures. One of the important functions of the tax is the mobilization of resources from rich to poor and bridging the gap between the rich and the poor. As the tax evasion, immediate effect is the loss of revenues to the state, which adversely affect the power to state to spend more on the poor and to ensure welfare of the people. Though the government might not have delivered us the promised lands flowing with the milk and honey, we cannot fail to see the governmental initiatives that touch every phase of our lives. The doctors who touch us the moment we are born or lean their trade at hugely subsidized prices. The schools run by the government light the lamp of the learning in the minds of the lakhs of kids. Though the public transport fails to make ends meet, they ensure that the citizens remains unburdened. The doctors, the teachers, the judges, the policemen, the firefighters and the scores of other government servants on whom we rely on in our journey from a cradle to grave are paid by the government. We raise hue and cry when the fuel prices increases. We take to the streets when subsidized gas cylinders are capped. We declare bunds when transport fares are hiked. What we sometimes opt to forget is that the government needs revenue to provide all these facilities. The expenditure, if not recouped by tax revenues, will empty the government coffers and will be the toll of death knell of the government subsidies. It is the taxpayer who gives himself through taxes all these perks, and the day this payment stops, we will have to back to grim reality of having killed the golden ghost of welfare measures for the greed. Next, impact of evasion on public peace and morality. More direct than expected is the impact of the illegality obtained black money in the economy, everyday life of the common citizens. Black money arising from the illegal activities such as crime and the corruption fosters an underground parallel economy that is anti-social. The black money amassed by racketeering, trafficking in counterfeit and the contraband goods, smuggling, production and the trade of narcotics, forgery, illegal mining, illegal felling of forest, illicit liquor trade, robbery, kidnapping, human trafficking, sexual exploitation and prostitutions, cheating and financial frauds, embezzlement, drugs money, bank frauds and illegal trade in arms are more than capable of disturbing the public peace, law and order and morality. The smugglers, the dacoits and the terrorists who are the beneficiaries of the shadow's economy will deliver nightmares to our country. The corrupt counter components of the black money stemming from the bribery and illicit gratification by those holding public office results in a system failure where the citizen must bribe to get his pound of flesh despite it being a right vested in the him to avail the same. The impact of evasion on economy. Currency is but a random piece of paper if it loses the purchasing power. Money unaccounted for is being capable of creating large scale infiltrations presence on the economy resulting in the loss of purchasing power of currency. The impact of food inflation and inflation of prices of essential commodities on the common man is a topic over which much ink is split and it's away the poor that suffers due to such market disturbances. A case point is the real estate sector where the large scale influx of black money has resulted in property prices shooting through the roof and pricing the common out of race to buy property. Another effects of black money is the impact it causes on the GDP of the country. It causes an adverse impact on the GDP as a huge part of income is diverted to another economy not being the home economy, resulting in deficient GDP, thereby depicting faulty picture of the economy and hiding real state of affairs. Causes of tax evasion. There could be various reasons which could possibly be causing tax evasion resulting in the creation of black money in India. Some of them are a high burden of taxation. High tax rates, either actual or perceived, provides a strong temptation to evade taxes and generates black money. Taking a look at the past and the present, marginal income tax rate capped at around 34.6% not substantial when compared to the astronomical going up to 97.75% marginal income tax rate including surcharge in the 70s. Despite the steep decrease in the tax rates, it is ironic that the perception that the persisting is one of high tax rates. The high tax rate of taxes creates greater incentives for non-compliance of the tax laws, as high rate adversely affect the disposable income in their hands. The people evade taxes is because of the high rates of the taxes, and this is a phenomena which is common in almost all kind of taxes, whether being income tax, sales tax, excise duties, custom duties, corporate taxes, etc. Moreover, the increase in the burden of taxation as well as the burden of complying with the laws is a strong reason for getting tempted to be a part in a tax evasion. Culture and social practices. In a society where tax evasion and underreporting of activities and the income is perceived to be very common or the norms, such activities may be considered acceptable and honest tax compliance and paying one's due shares to the public funds may not be considered a virtue. In effective enforcement of laws, it is found that more often than not, the enforcement of laws that regulate taxation, Income Tax Act, sales tax, excise duty, etc., are not very efficiently enforced due to lukewarm enforcement of such provisions as well as abundant exploitation of the loopholes and the gaps in these creates no deterrence and makes the tax evasion fearless, and thereby creation of parallel economy has become very easy. Unregulated sector or informal economy. Economy can be divided into two sections, formal and informal. Informal economy is that part of the economy which is largely unregulated by the enforcement agencies. A large part of the Indian economy comprises of the informal sector, which essentially implies that there is a large area of the Indian economy which is uncovered by the enforcement agencies, mainly because regulating this sector is extremely difficult and to a certain extent not even possible. It is primarily in this section of the economy that most cases of evasion takes place. Since it is largely unregulated, the ease to carry out unscrupulous transactions is in effect quite high. An example is that of jewelry sector or the real estate sector, wherein in most transactions are done in cash and barely an regulatory mechanism exists to monitor the large volume of money that flows through these key sectors. Corruptions. The corruption leads to tax evasion as the person getting the income by way of corrupt practices is hardly going to disclose the income and its source to the state. The disclosure on his part not only invite tax burden, but also the punitive action under the relevant laws and the loss of job too, since most people are aware of the rampant corruption that exists. According to them, evading tax is easier and financially also viable by paying a minimal amount in lieu of ensuring that the same is carried out without any hassle. Corrupt business practices. With the advent of globalization, liberalization and privatization, the industries started mushrooming growth in the country. Along with them came the whole scale bribery to the officials by way of secret commission, speed money, on money, pagri, etc. The cases like via lack of stringent penal provisions. The tax statute hardly makes the stringent penal provision in the case of evasion. Since the penalty amounts are also low, evading taxes is easier and financially lucrative, owing to the fact that the penalty is much lesser than the tax they would have paid on the earnings had the same not been evaded. Lack of banking infrastructure and over license on the cash economy. The majority of transactions in India are still made through cash, making it an easy route to launder money. The lack of penetration of effective banking facilities has meant that the people find it more convenient to transact in cash than through banks, where it is easier to trace. Deterioration in moral standards. In the earlier days, people owed respect for their kings or the ruler and were more governed by the fear of getting caught and get punished, but with the passage of time, both fear and respect have faded away, and now people are not anymore transparent or honest and have found out various ways in which they can accumulate and generate unaccounted money or black money. The people were more united and were more disciplined as they worked in coordination as a unit, they were honest and transparent and were not tainted with jealousy and worked for a common goal. They were willing to share the reaps of their hard labor with every member of the society, which is not the present case in our society. In contrast, the people are now self-centered and are only working for their own good and do not think about the society or the country as whole. Evasion of one tax leads to evasion of another tax, where assessed assessee suppress the production or manipulate the price, it will lead to evasion of excise duty, sale tax, income tax and other taxes on the goods. Non-compliance of general laws. Sometimes the people do not intend to evade taxes, however, while making non-compliances of non-tax laws, they evade the taxes unwillingly. For example, to evade payment of other statutory contributions, to evade compliance with the provisions of industrial laws such as the Industrial Disputes Act 1947, Minimum Wages Act 1948, Payment of Bonus Act 1936, Factories Act 1948 and Contract Labor Regulation and Abolition Act 1970, and or to evade compliance with other laws and the administrative procedures. Methods of tax evasion. Now that we know that tax evasion is an extremely common phenomenon and is also deliberate in the nature. Let us look at the methods that the assessees employ for evading taxes. Evasion could take place by way of the following methods. Manipulating transactions. This is the most commonly adopted method of evading tax owing to the ease in the transaction. The taxpayer usually does not maintain a proper account of income or the receipts which may be subject to taxation, and manipulate the books of accounts through any of the following methods: parallel books of accounts, out of book transactions, manipulation of books of account, manipulation of sales receipts, under reporting of production, manipulation of expenses, other manipulations of accounts, manipulations by way of international transactions through associate enterprises, manipulation of capital, manipulation of closing stock, manipulation of capital expenses. Transfer pricing. Apart from manipulating accounts, another method of reducing tax liability is by way of transfer pricing. This pertains to the manner in which the companies carry out transactions among their affiliates transcending territorial boundaries. The companies in this case essentially by way of efficient trade planning shift the proceeds of their business to the countries with lower tax rates, thereby reducing their effective tax liability. This money which is rooted overseas is transferred back to India by way of foreign direct investment, etc. Share price rigging. Initial public offering, referred to as IPO, offer a lot of scope for embezzlement of funds, resulting in reduction of tax liability. Usually there is a shell company created for this purpose, which entails investment by offshore companies or individuals in foreign tax jurisdiction in the share offered by IPO. Thereafter, these artificially escalate this trading price and sell it off later at the cost of ordinary investors. Tax havens. While these terms lacks a precise definition, OECD has previously provided it as something that is characterized by no or very low taxes, lack of effective exchange of information and lack of transparency about substantial activities. However, due to lack of regulations and vigilance that is exercised over these tax havens, while this term lacks a precise definition, OECD has previously provided it as as something that is characterized by no or very low tax, lack of effective exchange of information, and lack of transparency about substantial activities. However, due to lack of regular and vigilance that is exercised over these and the almost negligible rate of taxation imposed in these countries, they have come to become offshore financial centers. Institutions dealing with tax evasion. There are many institutions which have been set from time to time under the different laws for dealing with tax evasion and related issues. The agencies which are directly related to tax evasions are as under: Central Board of Excise and Customs, Central Board of Direct Taxes, Enforcement Directorate. Conclusion and suggestions. The tax evasion leads to black money. The immense growth of black money is having an adverse effect on the economy, on the society and the person residing in the country. It has also become a threat to security of country, as the black money is being used to fund the anti-social entities like terrorism. The persons are evolving various ways for evading taxes and adversely affecting the society, social structure, economic growth and development of the country as a whole. A few measures that can be adopted to root out the evil of tax evasions are: simplifications of the tax laws, to have moderate rate of taxes, deterrent penalty, improvement of banking infrastructure and promotion of plastic money, promotion of awareness, better enforcement of existing laws, changing the social perceptions about the taxes. In the end, the realization that the tax evasion is nothing but daylight robbery is what one should understand. The temporary gain of today is a seed of destructions which would engulf the economy tomorrow and would leave the but phantom of a once great nation. As Duet pointed out, we must avoid the impulse to live only for today, plundering for our own ease and convenience, the precious resource of tomorrow. Finally, the tax policy should be oriented to make the life of taxpayer comfortable and of tax evader difficult, miserable and hell. This can be done through the strong political will and zero tolerance policy as to evasion. Thank you for watching.